Hi, I'm Joyce Creiger. I'd like to welcome my guest today, a gentleman that I have had an opportunity to work with, that I've had an opportunity to know, who is an artist, a photographer, an entrepreneur, and a businessman, and has been making a living doing what he loves for the past 4 decades. I'd like to welcome Steve Edson. Steve, good to see you.
Joyce, good to be with you.
Tell me a little bit about how you got started in this business. Where did you find the courage to live out your life as an artist? We all know that's a tough road to hoe. What made you commit to do that?
I'd have to say in high school, when I spent time in a photography class, I would spend time going outside and photographing my environment, bring it back in, develop film, blow it up and start looking at it. I began to identify what the world looked like according to Steve Edson.
And at what point did you find subjects that intrigued you enough to stay with it, to do a series perhaps, or to do some sort of a group of images that were cohesive?
I'd say starting in about 1972, I started taking the train into New York City and walking areas of New York that kids probably shouldn't have been walking in. And I used to just explore all side streets, corners, nooks and crannies of Manhattan. And I cringe at times looking back on it, but that began the real exploration into a world that I never really knew. Now, I'd spent time in Manhattan growing up as a child, visiting family that lived in New York. But it was fascinating to go in and search it out and begin to identify what New York was about. Who are the people that live there? What are the buildings like?
I think our audience would be interested, since you go back a while, to tell us a little bit about what it was like shooting in black and white, developing your own film, coming into the age of colored photography, and then presto, we're into digital world.
There were things that I love about black and white, about the starkness, about the simplicity of shape and form. And there is something glorious about color, natural color, color that we find in everyday life. Red of a fire truck, red of an apple, very different types of reds, but equally vibrant colors. So to this day, most of my work is predominantly color, but some of the work that I'm doing is really about the starkness, about black backgrounds and white or red or oranges, part of my road series the painted series.
As a fine art photographer, one of the big things and challenges that most artists and photographers have is getting the word out, getting their images out to the public. You've tried various things. What are some of the things that you think might suit you in the future?
I have no doubt that the access to the large public around the world exists on the web, and that there are portals that are being developed and are developed, things like Art Specifier, that is allowing artists to reach communities of people that we've never been able to reach as easily as we are now. To do it with the ability to understand who that market is and be able to speak to them, engage them with work that's relevant to them is an amazing tool that's available to artists today that has never been available in previous decades.
To me, a site that is going to do this for an artist really needs to have somebody who's been in the business and knows the business. Whereas Amazon and Google know the world and they know images, but do they really know how to place the right artist with the right designer or the right curator or the right museum? So I think this is going to narrow down at some point, and the sites will be fewer than they are now. but I think you can't ignore this as a vehicle for artists to get their work out there. Talk to me a little bit about the distinction between commercial photography and your fine art photography. I know you have a number of different series in the fine art photography. You have a statuary portfolio that's quite amazing. You have a portfolio of your road images, which are absolutely crisp and stunning and contemporary and graphic, and I love them. And you have all the mannequin series, which is another wonderful series. All of these are your fine art photography. How is that distinct? Make the distinction between the fine art photography, if you will, for our audience, and your commercial photography.
My personal work is a lot about the exploration and the finding, the surprise, of finding the unexpected. Now that happens as well in the commercial world.
Right, because I've seen some of your commercial photography and it's as creative as your fine art photography. I find it hard in some ways to really make that distinction. I think as an artist, you can't separate yourself. That artist in you exists whether you're shooting a bunch of tomatoes or if you're shooting road signs. It doesn't matter. You have a creative eye, and that eye goes with you on every shoot you make.
Absolutely.
So whether somebody hires you or whether you go out because of the love of wanting to go out, the artist stays there. And I don't see the artist leaving.
The artist is at work all the time, but you won't be hanging a picture of a CEO of a major Fortune 500 company in your living room.
Well, that's true, but those tomatoes I might hang in my kitchen.
The tomatoes, yes. You know, other kind of explorations that I've undertaken, but rarely, and this is where the real distinction happens, is that the work gets used for magazines, it gets used in annual reports or advertising, but rarely does that cross over back to the fine art world. Not true with the fine art world, that fine art images can be repurposed into the commercial and corporate world and used on covers of annual reports and book covers and
or
magazines.
Hang in a hotel, or hang in a boardroom, or hang in a hospital.
The restaurants,
right,
yes.
Exactly. What is Steve Edson going to be 5 years from today? Is he going to be a videographer? Is he going to be a photographer? Is he going to be a commercial photographer? Or are you going to get into what you really love, which is this fine art photography?
In my heart of hearts, I know that I will always be a still photographer traveling the world. Looking around corners, looking around, walking down streets I probably shouldn't be walking down, because I want to know what's around the corner. What does it look like? What does it look like today? What does it look like tomorrow? What does it look like next week or next year? And it's a big world. And
So if money was no object,
I'd be on the road photographing in a different country every month.
Jack Kerouac, on the road again.
Yes.
With that, I think unless there's something else you'd like to talk about, we can conclude our interview, and I'd like to see you 5 years from today with that camera on your back going down the road.
Well, thank you, Joyce, and thanks for having me.
My pleasure, Steve.